Pirates figured out how to win battles without firing a single shot. And it was not with a cannonball, but with a flag. A single glimpse and entire crews dropped their weapons. Why? Because that black cloth didn't just warn you, it promised death. Today, the skull and crossbones is a cartoon printed on lunchboxes, toy ships, even football jerseys. But in the early 1700s, it meant only one thing: death was coming. This flag, the infamous Jolly Roger, wasn't just a calling card. It was a weapon of psychological warfare, used by pirates to break the will of their victims before the first cannon ever fired. And it worked. In the golden age of piracy, captains knew that fear was faster than firepower. The right flag, raised at the right moment, could stop a fight before it even started. But here's the twist. Not all pirate flags looked the same. In fact, they were as varied and as vicious as the pirates who flew them. Let's clear something up, because Hollywood gets this very wrong. Pirates didn't sail around permanently flying the skull and crossbones like a floating Halloween party. No, that would ruin the surprise. Instead, most pirate ships approached under false flags: British, Dutch, French, whatever got them close without suspicion. Then, when their prey was trapped and escape was impossible, boom, the Jolly Roger rose. And just like that, a merchant crew went from confused to terrified in seconds. Because that black flag didn't just say we're pirates, it said, we've planned this, we've deceived you, and now you're out of time. Another myth, that all pirate flags look the same. The truth is, the skull and crossbones was just one template. Every pirate captain customized theirs, adding symbols to build their reputation and send very specific messages. Some flew bleeding hearts to say no mercy. Others used hourglasses to whisper your time is up. There were swords, devils, even entire death threats stitched into cloth. And for a long time, historians thought these flags were just fantasy, too theatrical, too perfect. But they were real, and they weren't for show. They were calculated mind games. Pirate flags weren't just scary, they were strategic. Each symbol was carefully chosen to speak a very specific kind of terror. No translation needed. Let's start with the most iconic, the skull, or skeleton. Not just death, but inevitable death. A warning that resistance would end one way: buried at sea. The hourglass, it meant time was running out for you. Sometimes shown with wings to emphasize how fast that time was slipping away. The bleeding heart, no mercy. This wasn't just about dying, it was about suffering. Pirates who flew this were telling you, we don't just kill, we make it hurt. Crossed swords or cutlasses, readiness for battle. This wasn't a bluff. These pirates weren't looking to scare you off, they wanted the fight. A raised arm with sword, pure aggression. Think of it like a visual war cry. We will cut you down. Now here's something most people miss. The color of the flag was part of the message too. A black flag, that was the offer: surrender and you might live. A red flag, that was the promise: no quarter, no survivors. French pirates even called it the Joli Rouge, a beautiful red. But there was nothing beautiful about what followed. These weren't just decorations. These were ultimatums stitched into fabric. And pirates knew exactly when to raise them. Not too early, and never too late. Because timing was everything in their psychological game. And once that flag went up, it told every sailor on board exactly what kind of nightmare had just arrived. If pirate flags were weapons of fear, then the best pirates, well, they were artists of intimidation, starting with the most infamous of them all, Blackbeard Edward Teach. His flag? A horned skeleton, interpreted as the devil himself, clutching an hourglass and pointing a spear at a bleeding heart. This wasn't just symbolism, it was theater. The devil's on our side. Your time is up, and we're coming for your heart. Blackbeard even played the part. In battle, he tied slow-burning fuses into his beard and hair, shrouding himself in smoke like a demon rising from hell. No wonder crews fled at the mere sight of him. He didn't need to fire a shot, the image was enough. Calico Jack John Rackham. His was simpler, but just as iconic. A skull above two crossed cutlasses. Not bones, weapons. This was a flag that spoke boldly. We're pirates, we're armed, and were ready. It's the version most people think of when they picture the Jolly Roger today, likely because it looked clean, confident, and defiant. Ironically, Rackham wasn't the most successful pirate. His career was short-lived, and he was captured in just a few years after only a handful of raids. But thanks to that bold, striking emblem, his brand outlived him. Today, his skull and cutlass flag is often mistaken as the Jolly Roger, proof that design, not deeds, sometimes shapes legacy. Bartholomew Roberts, Black Bart. Now here's where it gets personal. Roberts flew not one, but several fearsome flags during his reign. In one version, he stood side by side with Death, both holding an hourglass. That's not subtle, he saw himself as Death's equal. But his most infamous flag? It showed Roberts himself, sword in hand, standing over two skulls labeled ABH and AMH, a Barbadian's head, a Martinican's head. This wasn't a threat to sailors in general, this was targeted revenge on two governors who'd sworn to hunt him. He turned his flag into a hit list. And when his black sails appeared on the horizon, word of that message traveled faster than the wind. Roberts captured over 400 ships in his career. And, many of them gave up without a single cannon fired, because by then, his flag had done all the talking. If there's one moment that proves how terrifying pirate symbols could be, it's what happened at Piracy Harbor in 1720. Bartholomew Roberts, Black Bart, sailed into the harbor under full black colors. No surprise attacks, no hidden flags, just bold, unflinching symbolism flapping in the wind. What lay in that harbor? 22 merchant ships, over 150 fishing vessels, dozens of armed crews, and when they saw his flag, they panicked. Sailors jumped overboard. Crews abandoned ship. They didn't even try to fight. Roberts and his men walked in and took every vessel, without firing a single shot. Why? Because the stories were already there. The flag, the initials, the skulls. Everyone knew what happened when Roberts showed up, and no one wanted to be the next ABH. This was psychological warfare at its peak. A flag that didn't need to speak, because fear had already done the talking. In the golden age of piracy, reputation was power, and sometimes all it took to conquer a fleet was a well-timed flag and a terrifying story attached to it. Centuries later, the Jolly Roger is everywhere. On t-shirts, in movies, inked onto arms. But we forget what it really was. Not a logo, not a costume, but a message, delivered without mercy and understood in every language. A black flag wasn't flown for fun. It was the final warning. It said, we know what you value, we know how to take it, and if you don't surrender, we'll take everything. These symbols didn't just mark pirates, they made them. They were stories in cloth, threats turned into visual code. And in an age ruled by wind and whispers, they gave pirates the ultimate advantage, fear, before the first shot ever rang out. So the next time you see that skull grinning from a flagpole or a coffee mug, remember once that grin meant death. If stories like this haunt your curiosity the way they haunted the seas, then consider subscribing. There's more history hiding in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. And if this made you see pirate symbols differently, drop a like. It helps more than you know.